So it seems that there's another shiny new World Eaters model on the march, but this one does appear to be gated behind the paywall that is Warhammer Plus. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking about this shiny new World Eaters Terminator. I say shiny and new, though I guess it's a bit more of an old resculpt of a classic bit of Warhammer artwork, and Games Workshop have just previewed it over on their webpage just now. This one was one that we kind of already knew was coming. Games Workshop has given us a few teasers of some silhouettes of their next Warhammer Plus exclusive miniatures, and it's fairly safe to say that this guy has a rather distinctive silhouette, a whole row of spikes on his back as the trophy rack, and chain fist in a rather unusual configuration. It seems they haven't kept us waiting all that long, I think that was a week ago, and now we've got the full model revealed with some actually decent details on it. Apparently the World Eater's Terminator is going to be called Azrak the Annihilator. I don't know if that one on the White Dwarf cover ever had its original name, but apparently this is what this guy's called. And there's going to be the option of an Age of Sigmar sorceress called Mibilor Darkfang as an alternative if you want the fantasy one. She's got quite a fun set of models as well, I think. I really quite like the little familiars that we'll take a look at in a second. Basically, it's been about a year since Games Workshop's slightly controversial Warhammer Plus service launched. It's a bit of a multifaceted beast with streaming content, vouchers, miniatures, apps, and text content that you can get for it, though I think that one of the highest value offerings, to be honest, of last year was the miniature, either a Vindicare Assassin or an Orok Megaboss. There's basically two different ways that you could get this guy. The only way is to subscribe up to Warhammer Plus in some form, but you can either do it with the monthly or the yearly subscription for £5 or £50, or $6 or $60 respectively. It basically means that the year subscription is a bit cheaper than the monthly one, but only by a couple of months worth. If you do subscribe to Warhammer Plus, apparently you get one of these included free, and then you get the option to purchase the other one if you want to, and no one else does. Monthly subscribers will basically have to wait 1 year until they get their miniature, as otherwise you could just say subscribe for a month, pick up the miniature, and then leave completely. But people who pay the yearly amount up front will get theirs a lot earlier this time round. I believe from what Games Workshop's saying that it sounds like that you'll get this in the next few weeks if you do subscribe yearly. So really quite a lot earlier than last year's one, which I think came out in May or June time for yearly subscribers. I don't think they've given us an exact date though, so I guess people who are subscribed will find out in the not too distant future. To take a look at the Terminator in just a little bit more detail, this guy, Azrak the Annihilator, comes from this White Dwarf cover. A classic one that people had already spotted basically matched the silhouette exactly, so it's not really too surprising that they've updated it to this. I must admit, for the overall model design, I do think that Terminators have kind of aged for the better since the White Dwarf cover days. This one is from really quite a long time ago, but in fairness to them, I think they have done a pretty reasonable job of keeping the original look and feel of the model and translating it onto a model that's got really quite a lot better proportions, at least in my opinion. Otherwise, aside from messing with the proportions just a little bit, it does look like it's a really quite faithful recreation overall. The posing is pretty much the exact same. It's even got grenades hanging off him in the same way, the same cornate icon, the same details on his armour, and he's absolutely covered in rivets as well, which might not be the easiest thing to paint, I suspect. Games Workshop really do seem to like mining the nostalgia mines for all they're worth these days. I think in general for people's opinions of the models, sometimes it works really quite well, but I feel like this classic look isn't going to be for absolutely everyone. I do think that some features, like the chain blade on the chain fist that bulges out a little bit, and the really quite big round nozzles of the gun, do just look a little bit chunky and cute by today's standards, even though the guy who's holding them is looking thoroughly menacing. Don't get me wrong, I certainly wouldn't be mentioning any opinions on these weapons to this guy's face. We do have a fair few other pictures of the guy. He is very much a Cornate Terminator with the icon of Khorne in the centre of his chest, a Chaos icon on his left shoulder pad, and I think that's just a slightly more simplistic looking skull on his right one. I don't know if that's just the way that they've painted his head with the rune emblazoned right into it, or whether or not that's some slightly sculpted model details that you can actually pick out yourself. Either way, it does look pretty cool, and I must say I think they've done a pretty fantastic job of the armour on the face. It's looking utterly sinister with those yellow glowing eyes, and a sort of green glow effect that is backlit with in and around the Terminator armour nearby. My guess is that this won't tell us anything about the upcoming World Eaters release for Terminators. I think it's very much a reimagination of a classic model, and we're not going to be getting entire squads of these guys for the World Eaters release that's going to be coming out next year. I think we did see a little bit of Terminator armour in that leaked picture of Angron, and it looked like it was Cataphracta Terminator armour, so perhaps kind of similar to the Death Guard Blight Lords. I think maybe compared with the Vindicator Assassin, he might not be quite as useful as a standalone character in actual games of 40k, and again I suspect his far more aims to be a bit of a display piece, and something that's going to be an interesting painting project for someone who likes the hobby as a whole, rather than just only the game. I guess maybe if you wanted to run him in a Chaos army, he could be a squad sergeant, or insert in a bigger Terminator squad, though the aesthetic is quite different. Perhaps he could be an interesting option for a Chaos Space Marine Terminator Lord as well. I guess that could suit him quite well. I will say as well that compared with the Vindicator Assassin, I don't feel like he's quite as universally usable in multiple 40k armies. I think one appeal of the Vindicator Assassin was that you could field him in a number of different Imperial forces, and you could just have him as a nice little insert in your force, so he'd be really quite usable by Space Marines, Guard, or anything else. In general, out of Warhammer though, not as many people do tend to collect Chaos Space Marines of various stripes, and even fewer collect World Eaters specifically. I guess you could convert him to be devoted to different legions, but the Khorne iconography is rather blazoned. Otherwise, we also have the Age of Sigmar offering, called Mibelor Darkfang. She's a Slaves of Darkness Sorceress unit. I don't know if she's blind or just covering her eyes so she can see better out of her other third eye, but also appears to be sporting a bunch of other typical Chaos mutations. She's got horns and some cloven hooves, a rather cool and rather sinister looking staff, a great big Chaos icon on her back, and I think actually out of the entire miniature it's quite fun that she comes with a whole bunch of little familiars that run along with her. And to be honest, I think they're by far the best selling point of the model, to be honest. There's a miniature little animated knight of some sort with a great big sword, a little hooded gremlin of some sort carrying some papers, a fanged cauldron with some walking legs and a ladle sticking out of it, and then some little aquatic looking beastie with some lizard frills blowing a little horn. I like the way that she's even decided to replace the standard Games Workshop tactical rock with a tactical fanged spellbook. Seems a lot more appropriate for a Chaos Sorcerer. Out of the two miniatures, I feel like they've actually exercised a fair bit more creativity with the Age of Sigmar one this time compared with the 40k, whereas previously the Aruk Megaboss was just a bit on the underwhelming side. I'll be interested to hear which one you prefer and why though. Do you prefer the Age of Sigmar Sorceress or the Khorne Terminator? And are either of them enough to sway your decision as to signing up to Warhammer Plus? If you're a current subscriber, are you still going to remain subscribed? Or would any of them tempt you enough to subscribe if you aren't? In any case, looking forward to hearing all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics for regular 40k news and updates. I do tend to try and cover Games Workshop's 40k releases as soon as they come out. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention one way in which you can help support, and that's my Element Games affiliate link, which you can find down in the video description. If you're thinking about picking up any 40k models in the near future, Element is a discount store within the UK, and they usually give somewhere around a 10 to 20% discount on Games Workshop's prices. If you click the link before ordering anything, a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics, and it doesn't cost you any more whatsoever when you buy something. Can just be a way to help out if you were thinking about picking up something anyway. For people over in the USA, I do also have an Amazon link down there as well. That works in much the same way. Click the link, buy anything through Amazon that you were going to already, and a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics without costing you any more. Again, can just be a way to help support the channel if you'd like to. A big thank you to you guys who have been using those, and a massive thank you for listening. I'll hope to see you guys next time.